up in my time, obviously there was no internet, not much TV, crappy TV, a couple of channels, whatever. So the only thing that I had really good access to were my dad's instruments. He was a multi-instrumentalist. And he played a lot of things. He played piano, violin, guitar, drums, mandolin, banjo. But he made money on a few of the instruments, violin, trombone. So he came from a long line of musical people. There was always instruments, a piano, a violin, a guitar. There was stuff laying around like toys for other kids were like my toys, kind of like. So that it's always been in my family. Now my mom, she was Irish and terrible upbringing. So she kind of gravitated toward being a writer. So she always kept journals. When she died, there were closets full of journals. She journaled every day of her life of what happened. So I was exposed to a lot of writing and thoughts, and I was exposed to a lot of instruments. So when I was the drummer in bands, 16 or so, 15, I would always write the songs by singing the parts with my mouth and then adding lyrics to it. And then a couple of years of that and playing out in bars at 16, I was just like, let's be a rock star. Everyone wants to be one, I think, but then very few people actually really go for it. That was it. I had to go move over to the guitar, and that's when I moved over. And then it only lasted a few more years that I was on drums in bands while I was trying to get better on guitar. And then I made the total switch. I think around the age of, by 18, 20-ish, I was like, okay, I want to go for it. And I knew I had to find the right people, because just because you're in a band and you want to make it, that doesn't mean that you're going to make it. And it definitely doesn't mean that you're going to do anything unless all members are on the same page with you. And if somebody's not, your chances are very slim, but yet we all fall prey to it. It calls you and you just gotta do it. And that's what it was for me. I had to at least try. And then I used to think when I was in my later 20s, because at that point in my life, now I was going for it. I was in a band with 5 people total, and every person in the band was 100% in the same direction. So this band BeJobe, they were maybe about the 7th, 8th band. I've been up to that point, maybe about my 8th band. And finally I got the right mindset with everyone. Everyone was dedicated, right up there with me, and to some degrees, maybe they even surpassed my enthusiasm. But I was right there with them, believe me. If everything is hitting on all cylinders, you got a great crowd and they're enthusiastic, and you and the band are on fire, and bam, you end when you're supposed to end, and you change when you're supposed to change, and everybody's there, and it's like a fine oiled machine with gears turning and everything works. That's when it's the best. How does that feel? I'll tell you how you feel. Nothing come close. Nothing come close to that feeling. Nothing. The band BeJobe, everyone was hitting on all cylinders, and we played some goddamn good shows and packed audience, being an all original band. And I don't think that can happen today. But BeJobe, everyone was on the same page, and we got record label interest, which was great. We had a person from Sony come down with us once per week. We practiced 3 times per week, if you could even believe that. This guy worked with us for 2 years from Sony. The day came when he could get us something from Sony, because he was trying those whole 2 years, trying to convince them that we would be a good move. And what they do is they just pick you apart. You being the artist, they pick you apart behind the scenes. They're like, Yeah, he or she's got great songs. They might not have a look or whatever, you know? And then it becomes all about money. And then it all becomes how can you make their pockets fat and quick? And if they don't think you're the package to do that, they're not going to invest anything in you. So this person said, after 2 years of working with us, I can't get you signed to Sony. That's the bad news. What I'm going to tell you, you're going to think is good news, but it's actually not good news. And that is, they want to sign you to one of their under labels. Like Elektra might have been a label under them, I think. But Elektra was even good because they had Queen. So maybe they wouldn't even give us that caliber. But one of those lower labels. Now, what ended up happening there is you sign it, and then you think of your peers, Queen and Billy Joel was on Sony, and this person was on Sony, and you think you're going to be in that camp. You're going to get treated like they would, and it's not true. And when I decided to try to make it in bands, my focus became making it. Listening to what these few producers that would come down for almost no money and give us advice to do. And yes, it's a formula. And yes, it made your song sound better. But you're kind of ripping out your soul, too, because there was a lot of things that some of these guys were trying to do from Sony, the sub-labels of Sony, through my friend that believed in us so highly. You ended up hating the song. It wasn't what it was in the beginning. And some of it you got why they did it. And they were trying to put you in a box, in a package. And that's the negative views on everything. But it's all not negative, because the truth of the matter is, after I finally decided I was done trying to make it, and I gave it a time limit. It was supposed to be 5 years. I gave it 7. After the person told us that news of what we would become if we sign, we would be that latter portion, I was heartbroken. I mean, thinking that the music industry could rip your soul apart like that, just tear you down to nothing. It blew me away. I was shocked that humans could do this to other humans that meant to do something positive. It was like earth-shattering to me. I never imagined it. So I quit all music, playing. I didn't pick up a guitar. I didn't pick up keyboard, nothing. I listened to music. That was it. I was a listener, and I couldn't obtain what they did. So I was just going to be a listener. And it took 3 years for me to take that guitar out my case. But once I took it out the case, I then wrote and performed every vocal and every instrument on my first self-released professional CD in 2003. And my goal was nothing other than to touch people with stories that were all fucking true. And without even trying, word of mouth, playing some acoustic gigs, playing some of the gigs with bands, about 4 of the songs ended up getting, not MTV or anything like that, but radio in different states that were smaller. They weren't super huge. I got on WPLR in New Haven, great station. I was played in North and South Carolina and California. And it was in rotation. And it was on some original artist show, but I got a lot of feedback from that. And then I started, I did one more CD after that big professional package in 2009, so 6 years later. And I felt my maturity as a songwriter has changed a lot. If you listen to that CD, it's called Waiting for You. And that CD, I decided I wanted to have some guest players play on it. I didn't want to do the whole thing myself. It was cool doing everything myself because it was exactly the way I wanted it. But when you're like a prick like that and want it a certain way, you lose something in the music that's magic. So let other people be creative with you on it. I wanted to write all the songs because they were about stories that were personal to me. I had some input from Tim Reedy, Ron Perkins, Lisa Landone, maybe somebody else on there. I'd have to read the credits, I can't remember. But they did a bang-up job on all the instrumentation, and they put their kind of spin on the song, and it was very rewarding as well. That got a lot of Rhode Island airplay. I don't know why. I don't think Cali this time. Maybe Florida. Oh, and UK. And then I started, I don't know how, but I started getting like a UK, Italy because of my family. But there was a lot of other countries too, Sweden, Norway. And then ever since that CD, then I stopped doing the physical CDs, and then I started just performing as a songwriter, singer-songwriter, who's also in cover bands. And I don't really do many originals too much outside, unless the people want it. A lot of things in life interest me. A lot. It could be fields related to music. It could be things non-related to music. If I get interested in finding out more about something, I try to become it. It doesn't always stick. It didn't stick with golf. I tried to love that. But I'm not one to think about image. If I like something, I'll learn about it. It could be, somebody's culture. If I dig on it for some reason, it hits me on some spiritual level or some level that I think there's more than meets the eye of what the common folk might see, then I'll get into it. So I think what ended up happening with the guitars was you would hear going back and forth of everyone speaking of tone woods in a guitar, tone woods. And I wanted to see if it was all hype. And I started buying guitars, cheap ones, and I would rip them to shreds. Take every friggin' piece that wasn't nature put there, and just pull it apart. And I tried to rebuild it. Failed on the first one. Second guitar I bought, tried to do it. Got better, but I failed. Didn't really understand a lot of things. By the third one, I wouldn't say it was mastered, but I got a real understanding of what goes where and why. And then I started painting guitars and modifications on all my guitars. I put the coolest electronics in. If there's something I want to try and check out, I will. And then it got me into the frets and filing the frets, and I just got in super deep. So I got into all of this because the science behind it, and I just got deeper with wanting to learn more about it. And now when I do setups on guitars, setups, for those of you who don't know, is taking your string height and bringing it as humanly possible low without touching the frets and fretting out. It's adjusting your truss rod, adjusting your saddles, or in an acoustic guitar case, filing the saddles. So it's so cool when you find out how things work mechanically. It's really interesting, and then it becomes an art, because I am known for my very low setups, and I don't believe there's many people that can get it lower than me. I've got people from all over coming for me to set up their professional guitars. I mean, now that's really the question. How has music affected my life? How I view people and racism and other things and lives and situations going on. As a writer, I'm going to be very honest with you. I'll pour my fucking heart out in lyrics, and you'll know exactly where I stand. There's no question. So I think music, for me, has shaped the person I am, where I try really hard to be a stand-up person. Doesn't mean I didn't do fucked up shit in my youth. I did, and I'm sorry for a lot of it. I can't take it back, though, either. But it shaped every single thing I am as a human. I found in life that the true hard things in my life everything that fucking sucked and was terrible, I wrote songs about it to help me process the information. And that I only figured out maybe a couple of years ago. I mean, listen, if you're going to get married, your wife or husband, they better be in full understanding of your music addiction and your love for it, that it almost has to come first. Now, that's not fair to another person in the relationship that might be an artist in some way, and they don't get a chance to do it or do their thing because they're busy cleaning up your messes that you're not doing because you're so hyper-focused on the music. So it really does take a special couple to understand that, yes, you love your kids, and I do love my kids dearly, you know, and I love my wife dearly. But we fight like cats and dogs because of my music addiction, you know, and every musician that's true to being a musician is exactly like me. Thank you for that. Oh man, what a great interviewer. You knew exactly where I was on that battery change. Give this kid a fucking A, all right? He's good.